There, Hoops fans. How you doing? It's your boys, Jonathan Macri and Adam Taylor. I switched it up today. That felt good. How you doing, Adam?
Dude, I'm sitting here in my PJs. It's midday UK time. I've got I don't think you guys get that in America. I've got my Lucasade. Do you get this?
I have no idea what that is.
This
Does
is
it
like
have to do with Mr. Doncic, or
it's like it's a glucose drink. I'm sure they sponsored like the EuroLeague for a while. It's
Okay.
good when you're tired and you don't want to make a second or third cup of coffee. So I'm living a
so
good
like
life.
Red Bull?
No, it's not an energy drink. It's like it's classed as a glucose drink. The closest thing I can think of is like a carbonated Gatorade.
I don't. If we have something like that here, I'm not familiar with it. But I'm also very out of touch with what like stuff that's around.
Deliciousness.
So welcome to another episode of the Pick and Pod podcast presented by Talk Basket. We are now, yes, we are now 2.5 weeks away. I think I can officially say that, right? Because today we're recording this on December 6th. Is today December 6th?
Today is December 6th.
Today is December 6th. The season kicks off on December 22nd. By some quick math, that is that is indeed 60. Could it be? Is it actually 16 days? That's it? Oh my goodness, it's 16 days, and it's 5 days till the first preseason game.
I'm very excited, and I've just counted on the calendar. It is indeed 16 days.
So 2.5 weeks. I wasn't less than 2.5 weeks.
You were pretty on the money considering it's like 7:30 a.m. where you're at.
It is 7:44 a.m. right now. And I have just taken a few sips of my cup of tea. I don't even have coffee because I think I told you this. Our coffee machine broke a week ago. So
this is why I use a French press, dude. They don't break.
No, ours is okay. So we're gonna get a little off topic. Ours is a press where you just plug it in and you put the coffee in the top and it does the little quick press thing. This thing is older than me. Our old coffee machine broke. My mom gave us this coffee machine that had been in the family for honestly 30 some odd years. We've been using it every day for, I don't know, over a year. And it finally started producing like watery coffee a week ago. But here's the catch. My mother-in-law, my wife's mother, is getting us a new coffee machine for Christmas, but it's not Christmas yet. So we have to survive the next 3 weeks. So I've been either running out and getting coffee every morning from the local barista, or we've been making tea. So this morning I'm having tea because our local coffee shop is not open until 8 a.m. That's my story.
I struggle without coffee, so I feel your pain very much.
I don't need it. I'm okay. My wife's pregnant, obviously, still, so she went a whole bunch of time without coffee anyway.
Yeah,
she wasn't drinking it.
No, I need it. I'm one of these people that my head is really foggy until my second cup of coffee. So I need that. We have you seen the new ones that they've got now? And we'll get to basketball, I promise. But coffee is I'm a very big fan of coffee. And you're on mute, John. And
the new what?
They're like
I need coffee too.
They're in the shape of a metal kettle, but they're very little. And what you do is you unscrew the bottom and put your coffee in the bottom, your ground beans, and then you screw it back up and put it in a saucepan on the hob full of boiling water.
This is already too much for me.
And it forms the coffee through the bottom into this miniature kettle, and then and apparently it's the best way to make coffee.
I like how, as you were describing that, you were literally gyrating for about a minute to emulate the coffee.
Yeah, dude, man, like
process.
But I'm just like, it's 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. I am not going through that hassle to make.
Yeah, coffee. No, that I my concession. Because okay, this is the last thing I promise. We're always trying to save money. I bring my lunch when I have to go eat to work. But I will get my coffee out. It's like I'll save the $10 on lunch, but I'm spending the $3 on especially since my local barista, a great cup of coffee is only $2.85. So it's not like I have to spring for the $5 from Starbucks, which is great. I know the conversion rates are a little different. Anyway,
no, the thing is, it's $5 for you, but it's £5 for me. So we're actually paying more for the same cup of coffee.
It's insane.
It saddens me. Great. And what saddens me more is the lack of Dunkin' Donuts. I'm
still of the belief that coffee should be $1.
But basketball.
So here's the deal. I sound like Joe Biden. We are, as I have said, 2.5 weeks away. So we're going to spend this episode and next episode going through the over-unders, and we're going to pick over or under the projected Vegas betting line win totals for each NBA team. And today we're going to do the Eastern Conference. A quick reminder, because not everybody is a wagerer, shall I say. Vegas sets the line at a place where it's trying to get the same amount, because for those who don't know how betting works, Vegas or whatever the casino is, makes money if there's the exact same amount of people betting both sides, both the over and the under. That's the easiest way for them to make money. It's the lowest risk. So they're just setting the line at the place that they think people are going to bet. So don't necessarily think of these as like, oh, how can my team X, I'll use my team, the Knicks, how could they only project the Knicks at 22.5 wins? Or how could they project them at so many wins? It's what do they think is going to take, to get people to bet equally. With that said, we're going to go from the bottom up. So you ready to do this, Adam?
I'm always ready. I'm quite excited about this because I feel like we're going to have some differing opinions.
I have a feeling we're going to have some differing opinions as well. One other very quick thing, to really provide a service to our listeners, I'm going to be doing the conversion rate for each of these win totals as in terms of what it would be in an 82 game season. So, for example, our first one, the Cleveland Cavaliers over under 22.5. That is 22.5 games for a 72 game season. In 82 game season, that would be 25.6 wins. So if you want to think about it realistically, it's basically like in an 82 game season this year, if it were 82 game season, would the Cavs win over or under 25.5 games? But our number is 22.5. So, Adam, I turn to you first. We'll alternate. I'll let you go first because I'm a nice guy. Over under Cavs 22.5 wins.
The Cavs won 19 last season, if I'm not mistaken, during the regular season. They haven't got better, as far as I'm concerned, apart from internal development. Is their internal development going to be enough to win them an extra 3 or 4 games? Probably. Is the Eastern Conference deeper than it was last season? Probably. So I'm going to take the under.
So your logic is spot on. You were correct, by the way. So here's the thing, though. Hold on, because, again, you can't even look at last season, right? Because last season, you're right. The Cavs did only win 19 games.
But
however, it was a shorter season. They only played 65. So over a full season, see, this is me doing math on the fly, which is always dangerous, but I'm going to attempt to do it anyway. So over the course of a full season, the Cavs would have won about 24 games. If we went out over the course of a full 82 games last year, they would have won 24. And their betting line for a full 82 game season this year is essentially 25.5. So really, Vegas is asking us, are the Cavs 2 games better than they were last year? And I think your logic is sound. I don't think they got better at all.
No, for me, it's internal development. How much more are you going to see from Sexton? How much more are you going to see from, I can't think of any of their other building blocks off the top of my head.
No, it's because there really aren't many. There's Sexton, there's Darius Garland.
That was who.
And then there's their first draft pick, who Isaac Okoro. I had Isaac Okoro third on my board heading into draft night, and that's because I think long term he offers. Actually, I'd probably argue that he offers the most upside of anyone in the draft outside of LaMelo Ball. The problem is, I think, while he will be probably barely a net positive on defense this year, I think it's the shot needs a while to develop, and I don't think he's gonna help them right. Actually, and really on the defense, real quick, having watched a lot of tape of Isaac Okoro, he's not quite the great shakes on defense yet that he gets made out to be. He has some brilliant in one-on-one moments on defense. His off-ball defense is not there yet, and I actually think he's going to be a minus on off the ball this season. They really didn't do anything in free agency. They're bringing back essentially the same roster. Basically, what you're betting on is Colin Sexton taking the step, right? The leap, him making the leap, or Darius Garland being like a good NBA player. I think the East got better, up and down. The only we'll get there, but like more East teams got better than didn't. So I'm with you. I'm going to take the under, and it relates a little bit to my next pick. Can I give you a quick stat, Adam?
I want this stat. Give me the stat.
Both of us have spent time writing for betting publications over the last couple of years. You still write for one. I think I wrote for one for a while. And I did an article ahead of, I think it was last year's over-unders. And I went back and looked at all the teams who had the lowest over-under win total, or one of the two lowest over-under win totals over the last, like, however many years the data I could find goes back, 8, 9, 10 years. And 70 or so, like 65, 70% of the worst teams at the bottom ended up covering.
So they ended up actually beating that.
Beating the,
go exactly. Over. Yeah.
Which is a perfect transition to my New York Knicks over under 22.5 wins. Again, it's like you could think of it as 25.5 wins in a full season. Last season, if you take their 21 wins and you go it out over a full season, it would have equated to 26. And even that's a misnomer because that includes the desultory David Fizdale first 22 games in which he went 4-18, excuse me. And they were actually on a pretty decent pace under Mike Miller. They were 17-27, and theoretically they've gotten even a bigger coaching upgrade with Tom Thibodeau. I'm going the over. I don't think it's going to be over by a bunch. I think maybe, game and a half, 2, 3 games. It also wouldn't shock me if they won in the high 20s, to be honest with you, because I think Tibbs is going to have these kids ready. If you want to listen to the intricacies of the New York Knicks, you could hop on and listen to my pod, the Knicks Film School podcast. But yeah, I think they're going to hit the over.
To be honest with you, I had them in the high 20s. Possibly if they like an otherworldly year for them would be like very low 30s, in my opinion. Just because of the roster they've got, and that's not a hit on them. I actually think that New York are building the right way at the moment. I think that Obi Toppin isn't going to give them too much help on D, but he's going to give them a bunch of fast break firepower on offense. Tibbs, Tibbs is worth an extra few wins as a coach himself, just because of the way he'll drill guys on D. I'm taking them on the over 2. That is a team that I feel like have got better both by backroom and on-court staff. They've got better across the board. I don't see them losing. No, sorry. I don't see them winning less than 23 games this year.
I mean, your lips to God's ears. The only thing I will throw in there is that they did have Marcus Morris early last season, and he, through his shot making, they won a couple of games. Bobby Portis had a couple of Bobby Portis games and won them. He won. There was one game, it was absolutely just his doing, a game against the Bulls. He had a couple of the good ones. Julius Randle had a couple of decent. So it's not like this is a given. Again, it's the Knicks. It's never a given. But all right, so we're both taking. Are you keeping track of these, by the way? I'm doing the conversion rate, so you have to keep track.
I've got a notepad, and I'm literally just typing O or U next to each of the teams.
Perfect. So we're both under on the Cavs. We're both over on the Knicks. Next up, the Detroit, the much improved, although apparently Vegas doesn't think so, Detroit Pistons. Their over under is 23.5, which the conversion rate is over a full 82 game season. That would be 26.7 wins. So really, if you think about it, for 82. It's like 26.5, but our number is 23.5. It is back to you, my friend.
So last year they won, and I again look back at it.
I'm gonna do the conversion rate.
So they won 20 games last season. Yeah. I think they've got worse. I don't understand what their free agency plan was to just acquire everybody 7 foot or around that height. It just made no sense to me. You still got Blake Griffin. He can kind of win you a couple of games when he's healthy. That's a big if and a big when. A lot of things Blake hasn't been healthy Blake Griffin in a while. I still like Dwayne Casey as a coach. I just don't understand how this roster, how they're going to fit all of these new bigs that they've acquired. into the rotation on offense and defense on first and second units. So I'm going to give them the under. I don't think they'll hit that. I think they're actually going to be one of the worst teams in the East.
Really?
I do. I think they're going to be an absolute train wreck.
Wow. Okay. So here's the one thing I do want to say for Detroit. Last season, they were on pace, if they played a full 82 games, to win about 25. Okay. So if you look at the conversion rate that we just did, it's basically asking, do you think the Pistons will be at least 2 games better than they were last year? According to Cleaning the Glass, which is a site that I use all the time, they have it's like a win differential statistic that basically says, based on their net rating and like I guess some other maybe advanced numbers, how should the team have done last year? And according to Cleaning the Glass, Detroit was the unluckiest team in the league last year. It says that over a full 82 game season, they should have won 5.2 more games. So basically, based on how they actually performed last season, they should have been a 30-win team.
And they've got some good pieces as well, though. Like I love Cleaning the Glass too. I use it like religiously. They've got some good pieces. I just feel like they've got worse with their whatever their free agency plan was. Just didn't make sense to me. So
basically, you'd rather have Christian Wood than they also lost Bruce Brown, who was a significant part of their team last year, and they got one of the Nets European guys. I apologize. I get Darren Musa and Rodney Kurix confused. They got one of them. I don't think it matters. They also obviously got Jeremy Grant. They got a Plumlee. Again, doesn't matter which one. And there's one more big signing. I think I'm forgetting or a trade or something that they made.
There was one more that I cannot for the life of me think who it is.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Good job, Detroit, making signings that they're not even that memorable.
I think Jeremy Grant was an upgrade, maybe. But
no, Jeremy Grant, I absolutely think was an upgrade. But again, why did Jeremy Grant go there? He has already essentially admitted the fact that he went there to have a bigger role in the offense, right? So is that necessarily a good thing?
Didn't they lose Kennard and get Shamet?
That's the other one. Yeah, they made the draft night trade. They lost Kennard. But wait, no, they didn't get Shamet. They got that trade.
Oh, Shamet went to Brooklyn, right?
Yeah. So let me just go through who's on their actual team, right? They drafted Killian Hayes with the 7th overall pick, who everyone I think figures is going to have a bit of a rough introduction to the league. Yeah, because it's not going to happen very quickly. They got DeLon Wright, who in one of their offseason moves, who's he's an NBA player. They also got Josh Jackson. I think Josh Jackson was the other one that we were forgetting. They also drafted. They ended up with Saddiq Bey, who is good. Saddiq Bey is good. So I don't know. And their other draft pick was Isaiah Stewart, who again, good young player.
Very low block player though. He's 100% on the block.
It's a lot of bigs.
Yeah, you can't ask Isaiah Stewart to even attack from the mid range. That dude gets his work done on the post. And that's a throwback style that I was very unsure how high he would go because of the lack of translation in the NBA.
Derrick Rose, by the way, we should note, is on an expiring contract. Definitely someone who is a candidate to be traded to a contender. I would say he's probably arguably the biggest candidate to be traded to a contender in the middle of the season, should things not be going well for Detroit. A Blake trade, I guess, always looms, although who's dying to take on that contract? I guess to me, this is essentially a question of do you think Blake Griffin is going to play 80% of the games, healthy?
And that's a big if and big when, because I just don't see that's going to happen. His body is kind of deteriorated quite a lot since the Clippers years when he was a force. And I'd never look at Detroit and be like, Griffin's going to play enough games to take them to that 8th seed, because he's capable of doing that when he's fully healthy.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. I could see this going 5 games under. I could see this going 5 games over. I don't feel strongly about this one. I wouldn't touch this one if I was like of the ones we've discussed already. The only one that I feel fairly strongly about is the Knicks over. I wouldn't touch this, but I'm going Pistons under. Like you, barely. Which brings us to the Charlotte Hornets. Who do you want to refresh us on what the Charlotte Hornets did this offseason?
I mean, if you want me to, I can.
I kind of would like you to just say the words.
The Charlotte Hornets screwed over Boston by agreeing to a sign and trade with Gordon Hayward worth $30 million a year, fully guaranteed, no player option, just all money guaranteed, as well, along with drafting LaMelo Ball. And I'm and waiving and stretching Nick Batum for roughly $9 million a year over the next 3 years. So
yeah, and sorry, you mentioned Ball. I want to make sure because listen, Hayward is the newsmaker, but Ball is the more significant addition.
Yeah,
right?
for sure, right? Yeah, and I mean, look, Hayward's going to be good enough to win you a few games. Hayward left because he wanted that bigger role. He wanted to be that focal point and to go with the ball in his hands to close games, and he's very capable of doing that. But I think that Hayward's going to learn very quickly that if LaMelo Ball starts to fulfill the potential that he's coming into the league with as a playmaker and a scorer, that in a year or maybe in 18 months, Hayward won't be the guy closing games out with the ball in his hand as often as what he probably thinks he will be.
So this is a really tough one because if you do the math, and I just did it really quickly, essentially Vegas is saying this season over an 82 game, if this was an 82 game season, they would be projecting or the over-under would be 29. And if you look at last season and you go from 65 and convert to 82, they would have won 29. So Vegas is essentially saying the Charlotte Hornets are exactly the same team as they were last year, given the additions, given the improvement elsewhere in the Eastern Conference, given the fact that LaMelo Ball might be really good someday, but he's a rookie and he's probably not going to be good right now.
And his defense looks to be probably one of the worst in the entire Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's weird because I like players on this team. I like PJ Washington. I think PJ Washington's going to be better. I like Devontae Graham. I thought it was I don't make a big stink about these things, but the fact that he wasn't even on the most improved, like the top 3 finishers was obscene, frankly.
Devontae
I don't know.
Graham.
What's your pick?
I've got them going over. I feel like they've improved from last year. I'm expecting to see a bit of a jump from Graham, a bit of a jump from Washington. Hayward, with the ball in his hands more, is going to be far more effective than what he was in Boston. And LaMelo will bring some form of feel-good factor to probably open the season up with a couple of W's. I've got them winning between 31 and 33. So I want to take that over.
They got a lot. They got deeper. They drafted Vernon Carey, and Vernon Carey, for those who don't know, he went into last college season as he's like a 6 or 7 ranked recruit in the country. He didn't have a bad college season by the numbers. He just, he didn't show you anything that's like, oh my God, that guy's like somebody's starting center for the next 10 years. But he's like, they got him in the top of the second round. They locked him up for 4 years, a really good contract. He's going to help them. I could see him actually. I mean, who the hell knows? I think Cody Zeller gets a bum rap, but I could see Vernon Carey actually closing games over Zeller at some point before the end of the season because I do think Carey's going to be good. Rozier, I guess. Are they going to start Ball? I mean, they have to start Ball, right? So that moves Rozier to the bench.
Yeah, well, you play Rozier at the 2 with the ball out of his hands as much. Maybe he's more effective there.
I'm going to... I like the coach. I like Borrego. God, I'm going to go over, but I don't feel great about it.
I'm quite comfortable going over with this. I am quite comfortable. Probably more comfortable than I should be, but I'm wishing Gordon Hayward all the best. So,
you know what? Here's the thing. The contract is ridiculous, but I think Gordon Hayward's still really good. And I think Gordon Hayward's going to come out this year and he's going to show everybody, he's going to remind people that he was he was an all-star in the West, as a young player when the West was loaded.
If he
And
stays healthy, I think he'll be an all-star this year in the East.
oh my, I would be actually kind of surprised if he wasn't an all-star this year. In the East, I think he's gonna be good. Even like people forget Nick Batum, the first year that he signed that contract in Charlotte, he wasn't bad. Yeah, okay. I'm going over also. So where are we? We're in lockstep, right? All of our picks are the same so far.
Yeah, which I feel like as we get higher, they're going to start differing. But at the moment, we've gone under on the Cavs. We've got a little pattern going here. Under on the Cavs, over on the Knicks, under on the Pistons, over on the Hornets, and now we're at the Chicago Bulls.
So next up, so there's a jump now. So the Hornets were at 25.5 wins. The Bulls are at 29.5 wins, which again, using our handy dandy 72 to 82 game conversion rate, Vegas is actually saying over an 82 game season, they would expect this Bulls team to win 33.5 games. That would be the over under. Last season, as a reminder, the Bulls did not make the bubble. The Vegas, if they had played 82 last season, you would have seen them win about 26 games. So Vegas is saying essentially here that they think the Bulls are going to be one of the most improved teams in the league. They think they're going to win like 6 or 7 more games over a full season than that same team would have last year. And I have to think most of those wins are coming from the coaching change, right? Everybody's like saying it. There's no bigger coaching upgrade in the league than Jim Boylan to Billy Donovan. And also, I think there's like this line of thinking that like some of their young guys last season were just lost, right? Like Lauri Markkanen was just lost. It was a lost season. Wendell Carter Jr., who everybody loved coming out of the draft. People really liked him even after his rookie year last season, kind of a lost year, right?
Add Pat Williams in as well, that split people's opinions right down the middle coming in from the draft.
Again, he's like a Coro, right? He's going to be good probably, but how good is he going to be this year? Then again, you got Kobe White, another year older, like does Zach LaVine maybe figure some things out? This is another one that's kind of tough.
I don't feel good about the decision I'm about to make.
Which makes me feel like you're going to go over.
I'm going over, yeah. And I don't feel good about it at all. But I'm going over because I think they can hit a 31 win year.
I'm just so like in a normal Eastern Conference year, again, so 33.5 wins would be the 82 game total. That essentially means you're knocking on the door of the 8th seed until the very end of the season, right? And I'm wondering. So again, the playoffs now, I guess, if you want to look at it, like goes 10 deep, or there's the play-in or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's a few teams we haven't talked about yet that I think are actually absolutely going to be in it. So if the Bulls are in it like late, fighting for that 10th spot, they're going to really keep trying. Who's handling the ball late in like close games for this team? Because God, I didn't watch a lot of Bulls last year, but I did watch them against the Knicks several times. And like their late game offense, which again, I know some of that was Boylan, but like you just don't feel good about whether the ball is in Levine's hands, whether the ball was in Kobe White's hands, whether the ball was in Thomas Satoransky's hands.
I mean, this is going to make it as clear.
They lost Chris Dunn, by the way. I call that the poor man's Marcus Smart. Is a very good defender. He's a really good defender, and they just didn't want to bring him back for whatever not a lot of money.
So, dude, as everyone knows, I covered the Celtics. I watched every game the Celtics played against Chicago. I cannot remember watching any of them, and I definitely wrote about the games, and I definitely watched them at least twice each. But the Bulls were so unmemorable and so poor that. Right now, thinking back,
I don't know if it was a good thing.
They just weren't good, dude. I mean, I should at least remember it. I'm kind of upset with myself.
All right, I'm gonna keep us. So you went over. I'm gonna actually disagree with you. I'm gonna go. God, I don't. No, I'm changing my mind. I'm gonna agree with you. And I really don't feel great about this. I
don't feel good either. I feel like it's the 0.5. I feel like 30 is very attainable. 29
it's-
is very attainable.
Yeah, I would feel a lot better about this if it was 28 and a half as opposed to 29 and a half. Whatever. I'm okay. I'm going over. So we've disrupted the trend. We still have the same picks for every team, but we've disrupted the trend because now we've gone 2 overs in a row.
Yes.
And I'm very curious to see which way we go on this one. Now, so okay, next up is the Washington Wizards. The over-under that I'm using here, we may have to skip over the Wizards. You know why? The over-under we're using here is 29 and a half. And I'm fairly certain this was set before the John Wall, Russell Westbrook trade.
Yeah, because I'm taking the over now. They've got Westbrook.
Hold on. This is exceptional podcasting. I'm looking up like live to see if there's been an update, and I cannot find an updated over under win total for the Washington Wizards. I still have it. Here. Oh wait, no, never mind. Adam, you ready for this?
I'm ready. What we got? I'll change it on my sheet.
Oh wow. Okay, so they think very highly of Mr. Westbrook. Again, it's a different site, so we're not using all the same ones, but it might be cheating a little bit. I have it now as 33 and a half.
Okay, this changes the narrative massively.
This was as of December 3rd. When did the trade go down? The trade went down before December 3rd. So yeah, this is updated. This is 33 and a half wins.
So look, you got Davis Bertans, Brad Beal, Russell Westbrook. Those are your main 3 names that are there. They've got that big whose name always goes out of my mind.
Oh, Thomas Bryant.
Thomas Bryant.
Yeah, no, he's good.
I don't see them winning 34.
So 82 games, this would be 38 wins.
Yeah, and that's not happening.
Are you sure about that?
Do you see them knocking on a 40-win season?
I see a team
that would put them in Toronto Raptors territory.
So, here's the thing, right, about the Eastern Conference, and at this point, we're probably gonna have to make this into a 2-part Eastern Conference over under because we're running along, and we'll save the projected playoff teams for next time. Yes, it's very top heavy, and yes, some of the lesser teams have gotten better. Here's the thing, though. If you give me a healthy Russell Westbrook and a healthy Bradley Beal and shooting, and like really good shooting, which Davis Bertans is arguably the most dangerous shooter in the league, other than like Steph Curry. He's the most dangerous like non-Curry division, shooter in the league.
Shooter.
Exactly. You give me that dude. You give me Thomas Bryant, who can space the floor a little bit, and then the alternative of Robin Lopez, who could step in and give you solid minutes if you just want to play a more traditional style, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you give me a couple other interesting young pieces like Rui Hachimura, now I'm forgetting the guy, Troy Brown.
See, I always go for Brown, and when I'm thinking of Bryant, this is what happens to me.
There you go. And then the guy who I think has a chance to be really good from this draft. I can't get a read on him if he's got his head on straight because I can't get a read. But Denny Avdija, who I know I think you liked before the draft.
I like him. I just don't see where he fits in the NBA. I just don't. Is he going to be a point forward?
Well, I think he fits everywhere. That's the thing. Is like you could run him out at the 2, you could run him out at the 4.
Yeah, it's just a lack of shooting is what I mean. Like to me, he's going to need the ball in his hands a bunch to be effective because he doesn't give you that off-ball shooting threat at the moment.
Look, I think the reason he fell to 9th is because people may be a little concerned about the shot. The free throw rate was, for anybody who doesn't know, abysmal over the course of his Israeli career,
which is obviously what people use to kind of look at the upside of a guy's shot.
I was about to say they still got Ish Smith. Love me some Ish Smith. Maurice Wagner.
If they're playing the Boston Celtics and put Ish Smith on, they can feel very comfortable because he seems to go off against Boston.
He always goes off against the Knicks. Maybe he just goes off against every team. Maybe Ish Smith is the greatest player in the league and we don't realize it. They got Wagner. I love taken ahead of Mitchell Robinson. I love that. You know what? I'm going over. And I'm actually I am not only going over, I feel better about this over than I do about any this and the Knicks are the two now that I feel really good about.
See, I think that going over is fine, and I can understand that. 35 wins to me seems like a very achievable target. But when you've done the conversion and you're like, right, it's 38 wins if it was a full season. Yeah,
39 essentially.
39.
They would have to get to 39. They would have to be essentially almost a 500 team. But here's the thing: I think those lesser lights in the Eastern Conference, even though they've gotten better, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal are on the floor and they're on their games. Like they're winning that game.
They're a playoff team. Yeah, they're definitely a playoff team.
But more than that, like unlike the Charlottes and the I know we didn't get to them yet, the Atlantas and the Detroits and the even like the Orlandos of the world, and the Chicagos of the world. If Washington steps foot on the floor against the Celtics or the Bucks or the Heat or the Sixers, those other teams or the Nets, those other teams are going to be favored. But it's not like the Wizards are going to be like, all right, well, we're going to lose this one. No, like they're going to go into every game expecting to win. I'm taking the over. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I want to take the over simply because when I look at the other teams around them, like the Bulls. Okay, so I feel like the Wizards are better than Chicago, better than Charlotte, better than Detroit, better than Cleveland, probably better than Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You play all of those teams in a regular season, 4 times? So that's 4, 8, 12, 16. That's 24 wins just off those 4 teams. I'm not saying you'd sweep every team, but just going for an easy explanation. I can see them winning 35 comfortably. Yeah, I'll take the over, and I feel comfortable about it. I just don't like the idea of if this was a full season that there'd be a 40-win team.
No, I get it. I get the trepidation.
Love that word.
I love it too. I use it whenever I can.
Me
too. All right, let's move on to a team that I will be taking the under for. I'm telling you, just at the outset.
I'd already marked this as an under for both of us.
The Orlando Magic, 32.5 wins. Gosh, this feels high.
Massively, especially with no Jonathan Isaac.
Well, so it's essentially you're saying that, okay, again, conversion rate's about 37 wins. They're projecting them for over an 82-game season.
They won 33 last year in the shortened season. Pretty much without Isaac as well.
Yeah, but they won 30. They also went to the bubble, right? So they won 33 in a 73-game season, right? So again, my handy dandy calculator. Thank God for calculators on phones, right? So over an 82-game season last year, they were a 37-win team. So essentially, again, Vegas is saying give or take a half a game. The Magic are going to be the same team as they were last year. How much did they have Isaac? They didn't have Isaac for the whole season though last year either.
No, he came back, played a few games, and then got re-injured. And I feel like he'd be the guy that could really tip the scales in their favor.
He played 34 games last year, Jonathan Isaac.
A lot of those were like restricted games as well, like minutes restrictions and stuff, if I remember. Because I followed the Magic quite closely. Because
I remember you did that. Yeah, I don't. They also lost. By the way, they lost DJ Augustine, which, laugh at that. Me pointing that out if you want. DJ Augustine helped them. He was he. The Markelle Fultz point guard experiment is not conclusive yet, and if you go look at their on-off numbers last year via cleaning the glass, guess who their most helpful player was? Their most helpful regular rotation player who played over 1,000 minutes. It was DJ Augustine. And I know a lot of those minutes came against backup units, but he's gone now. They also lost. What's that?
He's gone and they replaced him with Cole Anthony.
Exactly.
Which is it's a downgrade. At the end of the day, you downgrade him from a very reliable vet to an unproven rookie, regardless of how good he could be. At the moment, you have to look at it as a downgrade.
They also lost Wes Iwundu, who I think was kind of sneaky helpful for them last year. He was one of their best players on defense, that's for sure. And obviously Isaac, who played 34 games for them last season. He played almost 1,000 minutes. That is a significant loss. To me, this is another one that I would bet. In addition to the Knicks over and the Wizards over, I would bet the Magic under.
Yeah, they're gonna need a big, and like I made a case last season that I'm sticking to, and I've had some people disagree with me. I've had some people say, "Hey, I didn't look at it like that." I made a case of last year was effectively Markelle Fultz's rookie season, just because of how many.
That's actually really interesting.
And that was the way I looked at it. Like, he played spot minutes in his first 2 years, but if Ben Simmons can be rookie of the year in his second year in, then Markelle Fultz's third year was effectively his rookie year, which means you're most likely going to see an uptick in form from him and an uptick in production from him. But even that, I don't see the Magic hitting the over on this, so I'm going to take the under with you as well.
All right. I think that brings us to what'll be our last team for today. And then we will. I had no idea this was going to take so long.
Because what we haven't told you is there's a guest after this. We never mentioned that. So there will be a guest that follows us up.
Exceptional podcasting. Well, make sure you put the guest. No, we're leaving it as a surprise. We didn't screw up. This was a surprise all along. And you know what? We're not even going to tell you who the guest is yet. We're gonna make you wait, and you're gonna hear. I'll tell you this: he's someone that's on ESPN. And obviously you saw from the title of the episode that we had a guest. So
and it wasn't Woj.
It's not Woj.
Could you imagine?
Oh man,
shit.
Should we go re-record this entire episode because it
was brilliant, dude. I
didn't have coffee today. Yeah.
It literally, my wife just handed me a cup of coffee. And on the second sip, I was like, shit, we didn't mention the guest.
I'm sure Eric won't mind. Okay. Last team for right now, and then we will get to our esteemed guest. The Atlanta Hawks, 41.5. Oh, sorry. I was reading their converted to, so the betting line is 36.5. Converted to an 82 game season. That would essentially be 41.5 is what this is. Crazy too. Not crazy, but it's like Vegas thinks the Hawks are a better than 500 team, which saying that out loud that's something, man. That's something.
I mean, Gallinari's good. I mean, he's damn good. And Rondo's, reliable, gives you some good defense, gives you some good vet presence. But they're not that good.
Lest I remind you, the Hawks won fewer games last season than the Knicks.
That's what I'm saying, but they're not that good. These two guys coming in are good, but they're not good enough to put them.
And actually, no, here's another one. Their winning percentage last season, because they played 67 games, they played an extra game than most teams, was .299. So the only teams that had a worse winning percentage than their .299 were the Wolves at .297, the Cavs at .292, and the Warriors were way down there at .231. Like, Atlanta was not just one of the worst 5 teams. Like, they were comfortably one of the worst 5 teams last year.
What I will say is, though, they prioritized defense this year, bringing in a Okongwu, bringing in Rondo. They added defensive presence because they were so I don't know how to word it. They were shit on D.
I think you worded it just fine.
Yeah, they were like probably one of the most frustratingly bad teams on defense in the entire NBA. But I feel like they've addressed that slightly with Okongwu, with Rondo, Gallup. But I just don't see them winning 37 games this year.
Vegas is saying, because again, if you extrapolate their win total from last season out over 82 games, it's just 24.5 wins. Vegas is saying that they will be 17 wins better over a full 82 game season. 17 wins better?
They've got so many young guys that can go through that internal development process and have a better year that could effectively make that kind of realistic. Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Trae Young's having another year under his belt. They've got But no,
If Bogey has his best year as a pro, right, and they use him properly,
I forgot about Bogey.
Yeah. Well, but here's the other thing, right? Lot of mouths to feed now, which is the one thing that everybody's kind of sweeping under the rug, right? So it's like, okay, well, they just traded a first round pick for Clint Capella, so obviously he's going to start at center. John Collins is going to start at power forward. Whether or not they wind up reaching a contract extension with him is a question, I guess, for another day, or maybe it's not. Because if he goes into the season without that extension, how happy is he going to be? How selfish is he going to be trying to get his numbers with all these other mouths to feed? That's a situation worth watching. Okay, you got Gallinari, I guess, backing up Collins at the 4 while also playing a little bit of 3, or does he start at the 3 and then you have Bogey at the 2 and Trey at the 1? So that means all of your young players, these guys who you went out and got last year, your Cam Reddishes, your DeAndre Hunters, and then Kevin Huerter from the year before, all these guys now are like, oh, wait a minute. So now we're not only coming off the bench, but we're only playing like 15, 20 minutes a night, and we're 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th on the team in usage. Like, how do you think DeAndre Hunter is going to feel about being 8th on the Hawks in usage rate? Because that's a real thing that could happen. Or like Cam Reddish being like 6th. Like, I don't think much of Lloyd Pierce as a coach. And I say that purely because A, I've watched this team for a few years now, and B, we know Trae Young has had his issues with Lloyd Pierce. Like, that was reported. Like, that's out there, and that stuff is still there. I'm going under, and I feel good about it.
Yeah, you see, for me now, I was a real big fan, and I'm a sucker for teams that build through the draft. I'm a sucker for watching these young guys come in and develop into whatever they develop into. And sometimes that gives me targets to throw and say, hey, I thought you were going to be good. You're trash, a la Andrew Wiggins. Sometimes it's going to be, hey, I thought you were going to be trash, but you're good, a la Mitch Robinson, who you know I'm a huge fan of.
Yes.
I thought the Hawks had a real defined plan coming into the start of last year. You know, they were drafting shooting from everywhere.
I thought they were in good shape heading into last year.
Yeah, and you knew they were going to struggle, but it was always part of the process of, hey, we've got guys that are phenomenally talented offensively. We just need to bring their defensive IQ up a little bit over the next year or two, and then we're going to be solid. I feel like they've really changed pace here, and they've kind of screwed up all the foundations that they put in place coming into the last season and through last season. I don't feel good about them. I feel like they're going to be one of those teams where it's going to be very Boston's Kyrie Irving Celtics-esque throughout the year, where people are getting pissed off. There's no camaraderie there, and there's going to be an implosion. And I'm quite comfortable saying that Pierce will probably be one of the first coaches to lose his job this year. And it might not all be his fault, because they've put together a team now that is very, very uneven.
Well, like that's the thing. If they, let me look at their schedule, because now you want to talk about getting in the weeds. We'll end with this.
Just so we're aware, I'm taking the under 2.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, their schedule somehow is not on ESPN. Let me do a quick Google. Like, the reason I'm looking up their schedule is because I think if they get off to, I don't know, a 5-11 start, right? Here's who they open the season against. They open the season in Chicago, then in Memphis, then they're home for Detroit, then they're in Brooklyn with a back-to-back. They are back-to-back 2 games in a row in Brooklyn. Then they're home for Cleveland, home for the Knicks. Okay, gets a little easier. Home for the Hawks. Home for the Hornets. At the Hornets. Then they got, listen to this, Sixers, Suns, Jazz, Blazers before they face the Wolves. Like, to me,
that's a big losing streak to go on before you go up against the Wolves.
To me, that's a recipe for like those first, dozen games, 13 games, like 4-9. Did I do that math right? 4-9, 5-8. Like, I don't think that's out of the question, because here's the other thing, right? Like, the Hawks improved a lot, but they're not above losing to a team like the Knicks or the Hornets or the Pistons. Like their defense is, as you said, shit. They could lose any of those. I am. So let's finish up with where
Didn't the Hawks get Chris Dunn as well? Didn't they bring in Chris Dunn?
Yeah, but again, like, okay, so Chris
That's what
Dunn
I'm
is
saying. But you bring in Chris Dunn, but then you go and bring in Rajon Rondo as well. Why do you need both?
That's Rajon. Like they brought in all these guys, but you could like it still doesn't necessarily correct. Like, yes, Chris Dunn is a better defensive player. That will help them. Okay, great. When Chris Dunn's on the floor, that means Trae Young is probably off the floor.
Yeah.
So
I looked at it as if you get a Okongwu, Chris Dunn, they drafted Skylar Mays, who's more of an offensive guy anyway. But you get a Okongwu, Chris Dunn, and then maybe one other defensive piece. You're done. That should have been your whole offseason.
I'm just like, if Doc Rivers or like even like a Dwayne Casey was the coach of this team, I would feel so much better about it. I'm not sure I have the confidence in Lloyd Pierce to get this thing off on the right foot. I'm going under, and I feel very good about it. So just to recap really quick, and then we'll finish up the Eastern Conference next week before we get to our interview now. I'm under Hawks, under Magic, over Wizards, over Bulls. What did I go? Over Hornets,
yeah.
Over Hornets, under Pistons, over Knicks, under Cavs.
Yeah, that's exactly what we had. We didn't change. We agreed on everything so far.
Well, is that good podcasting? I don't know.
I don't know. It depends if people want to listen to us argue or not. I can't see why they'd want us to argue. So yeah, this is exceptional podcasting.
Well, we went 4 overs, 4 unders, so we're good there. And again, the ones I feel personally strongest about, I feel very strongly about the Atlanta under. I feel pretty strongly about the Washington over, and famous last words, I feel pretty strongly about the Knicks over.
So I'm very strong about the Knicks over, the Pistons under, and the Hawks under, and I'm very uncomfortable with the Wizards over.
I'm uncomfortable about several, but anyway, okay. This is done with this portion of the show. This was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it at home. And should I say the actual name of the guest? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned his first name a minute ago, so you might as well finish it off.
You sure?
Yeah, I think we should, right?
All right. Joining us right now, coming up, NBA reporter for ESPN, Eric Woodyard. Adam, this was a pleasure as always. And everybody out there, stay tuned for this interview.
Namaste.